Hey guys, what's up? We are back with some more reactions after dark, and of course we're going to be watching Man Survives Real Life Squid Game that killed 551 people, funded by a rich Australian family by Rotten Mango. Of course, this is part 3, the end of the trilogy for the Squid Game series of videos. So obviously if you haven't seen the first two, go watch those two, which I have done. Second one was yesterday, the first one was the day before that. Tomorrow will probably be BBD. Jesus Christ, why was I stuttering so much there? We will probably be doing the Burning Sun Part 2, and then maybe Burning Sun Part 3 after that. Who knows, but I think at least we'll probably be doing Burning Sun Part 2. 3, maybe we'll give it some air as well, like we did with Part 2. I don't know what we'll be doing other than that. We'll have to just see. I don't think I have much else to say this time around. Yep. I think we could just go straight into it already.
Bada bing, bada boo.
The conspiracy that one of the richest families in the world hunts humans as sport started a really long time ago. It started.
Yeah, I mean, that seems. We have so many movies about stuff like that, right? Just humans being hunted. The ultimate game, or whatever it's called. The ultimate prey.
Way before TikTok. Hunts humans as sport started a really long time ago. It started way before TikTok. But this party definitely did not help with the conspiracies. December 12th is the night that everyone who is anybody has been waiting for. I mean, they don't even know what they're doing, who's going to be there, or really a start time and end time to this party, or whatever it is that they're doing. All they've received thus far, is this invitation.
Also, new background as well, compared to the last two.
At first glance, the invitation seems like it's in a different language. It's SDAEHTSILAER and SESSA. It doesn't make sense.
Why is it backwards?
Some invitees took weeks to decipher this code. It's an invite to a party because it's not in a different language. It is in English. You just have to hold up the invitation
To a mirror?
in front of a mirror and the reflection will tell you about it. It says, black tie, long dresses, and surrealist heads. People spend weeks having the top designers handcraft surrealist heads and masks for this gathering because it's a party that you have to wear masks. And it's not every day that a Rothschild invites you to a party. Side note, the Rothschilds were one of the wealthiest families in the world. At their height, calculated with inflation, some estimates put their net family worth around $1.4 trillion.
Wow.
Oof.
They're still all very wealthy, but there's probably hundreds and hundreds of Rothschild descendants. Their wealth is much more scattered and spread across, with only a handful, just a mere handful, being billionaires still. But back then, they were likely the single most influential, wealthiest family in the entire world.
Why though? How did they get that money?
If they tell you to jump, it is probably in your best interest, perhaps even safety, to jump as high as you can. If they tell you to wear black tie, long dresses, and surrealist mask heads, it is probably in your best interest to get the best surrealist mask head that you could possibly find, or get a top designer to
Cool stuff here.
create one. These invites are so coveted that another wealthy socialite at one point threatened to self-exit if she was not invited to the next party held by them.
Did she get invited? Question mark. Did she exit? So yeah, what I was saying with back, just roll this back. Like, look at this guy's like mask. That's pretty cool. The Mona Lisa one there. These are just like they got their faces painted, but I think like this guy on the left there, like this is pretty cool. Just like half your face coming off. I mean, this is surreal, right? It's supposed to be surreal stuff, but that's pretty cool. Just appreciating the art.
One. These invites are so coveted that another wealthy socialite at one point threatened to self-exit if she was not invited to the next party held by them. I don't know what the guests were expecting, but when they get to the chateau in France, I mean, it's hard to miss the house, by the way. 80 guest bedrooms, a library with over 80,000 books, with about 30 square kilometers of dense forest land surrounding this chateau, which that amount of land is about the size of a small city or a quarter of Manhattan, or maybe if you combine all 4 Disney theme parks, Magic Kingdom, Epcot, Hollywood Studios, Animal Kingdom, into one, that's how much forest they have. It's massive, it's isolated, it's outside of Paris, and the guests are coming in. Audrey Hepburn is there, wearing a bird cage filled with birds on her head. Another guest is just wearing a giant apple covering their entire face.
I feel like I would not want a bunch of birds on my head in the cage with me unless there's like a platform underneath them. And even then, like you really want to go around with live birds above your head, possibly eventually smelling up the place.
Another guest has this giant mask. I'm sure everywhere they walk, they're just slapping people with this mask. And it's just giant cutouts of Mona Lisa with different expressions, different oogly eyes, staring at the guests, all chopped up everywhere. Then the hostess wore a giant stag's head, like a deer.
Okay, pretty demonic, I'm gonna say. I mean, everyone else is this a side profile? Oh, what the heck happened there? I don't know if that happened. Don't know what we ended up seeing there either. I don't care about the. Hold on, let me get rid of this. I don't think there was any thumbnails down there that were weird or whatnot. But yeah, I don't know what happened there. Why I just decided that I'm just gonna start scrolling down. But yeah, is this the? I think this is a side profile of that one mask that I was talking about that was cool. So yeah, still interesting even on the side. But yeah, this is. We're saying this is a deer, but this is some satanic stuff if I've ever seen it. This is still cool. This though, I mean, this is a bit too on the nose, honestly.
Deer's head with tears of diamonds streaming down the stag's face.
Are they actually diamonds?
Real diamonds.
Yeah, of course they are.
What the hell are those? In front of the main staircase are the waitstaff. They're dressed as cats, and they're all meowing and pawing at each other,
Was Cats the musical a thing yet at this point?
purring and sleeping on the steps. And when you sit down at the dining table, the plates are covered in fur. Not like, oh, someone's cat put fur on my plate, but the entire plate is made out of fur. And on the
Which, of course, that's pretty gross.
table, you see a taxidermy turtle. I mean, are we supposed to... I don't think you're supposed to eat the turtle. Then what are we supposed to... What's the real food here? The food is placed on a giant mannequin that is laying nude on a bed of roses. And the menu consists of slightly cannibalistic sounding titles such as Sirloin. Welcome to the Surrealist Ball, held by the Rothschild. It has been decades since this now viral ball, but everyone still talks about it, mainly because of the creepy pictures that of the host and the hostess, the Rothschild couple that's hosting. They're standing there, black tie, event gown to the floor, hand in hand, just wearing giant masks.
Is he wearing anything? Because it looks like he didn't even attempt.
It's very unsettling. So much so that netizens believe that after this little dinner, they were most likely hunting people in the dense woods, in the thick forest afterwards.
That is an assumption. That's not. There's no hard fact in just saying that. You can't just say that.
That makes the most sense, does it not? They're hunting humans.
What? Huh? What? How do we jump to that logic? Just because they're doing some sort of surreal artsy dinner that they're hunting humans. How is that just like not a leap of logic? What?
There are 2 men in the forest.
I'm not saying they didn't. It's just like, how did we go from some dumb artsy dinner to they must be killing humans out in the back and hunting them down? Like, what?
They have long rifles. They're looking through their scopes. You see that? Yeah, I do. I see it. They see a person in the middle of the woods. This is not in France. This is not connected to the Rothschild, at least not directly. This is in Ulsan, South Korea. And the two hunters see another person on the other side of the rifle, which is not alarming. It is the season for hunting for pheasants. But the intriguing thing is, it's not another hunter. Wait, look, there's more. There's more people. There's a lot of people. And then there's another one and another one. Seeing a few people in the middle of the woods at this time should not be the most alarming.
I don't know if this is a bunch of tracksuits from the brother home, or is like where are we going with this?
But when you see nearly 100 people in the middle of the woods gathered, it's weird, it's intriguing. The hunters get closer. It looks like some sort of construction site. Maybe they're building out here. I mean, I get
Okay, so it's the brother home stuff.
closer. It looks like some sort of construction site. Maybe they're building out here. I mean, again, it's not too strange. This is a developing area. They're about to walk back when one of them stops. No, something's weird about this place. The next day, that man alone, one of the two hunters, comes back. This time, instead of a rifle, he starts bringing a telephoto lens and he's shooting pictures. If you look from afar, this feels like a regular construction site. It's very typical. But once you get closer, there's a dog. 13 dogs, German shepherds. They're not watching the woods though. So imagine a construction site and you see 13 dogs. Would they not be watching the woods for anyone coming, I don't know, to loot, to take stuff, to stop them from developing? I don't know.
I feel like they're not worried about anyone else because they have full control, right? The government and the police are on their side. They don't have to worry about anybody showing up. They can just kill anybody who shows up, right? And get rid of them. They're just worried about people escaping.
Right? You would expect that they're watching outside, but they're watching the construction workers. Why would they need to guard them? It doesn't make sense. The 13 German shepherds are all attached to some sort of human handler that is also holding a giant wooden club. Again, they're not watching the woods for intruders or anybody that's approaching. They are watching the construction members. The man with the camera waits until the sun sets and he starts taking photos of the guards, and the guards are tying everyone's ankles together. Dozens of people tied together by their ankles with chains, and then they're shuffled into this shipping container. The door is slammed shut and padlocked from the outside. The people in the woods are victims of Brother's home. They have been transferred from Busan, South Korea, where the welfare facility that houses over 4,000 people is located, into Ulsan, to start building a second location.
You're kidding me.
The man with the camera, though, he's going to figure out who's behind all of this. He's going to figure out the people behind Brother's home and do something about it, because he's not just a hunter. He is the newly elected prosecutor for Ulsan.
What? Not just a hunter? Why did he have that? I guess he probably was hunting, but he was just doing it as a hobby, and then just happened to be an attorney on top of that.
This is the real life case behind Squid Games.
Okay, then this is of course going to be the intro here, which we have to mute. Yeah, big M. Night Shyamalan twist there. Is he actually going to be able to do anything, or is he going to get caught like everybody else and thrown in there? Like, who knows? Because like, how is this even going to work? I mean, like, maybe if they let the world know, then Korea is going to be like, they need to save face and like stop doing this. They can't just, because now it's going to tarnish their reputation, and right, and that's the exact opposite of what they want to happen. I mean, right? But yeah, they don't want that to happen.
Thank today's sponsors who have made it
Like
possible.
it's the reason they were doing all this to begin with. This Squid Game thing is to like have the reputation not be tarnished. So now that it's going to tarnish it, they have to stop it if the world finds out.
For Rotten Mango to directly support a survivor of today's episode. This episode's partnerships have also made it possible to support Rotten Mango's growing team, and we'd also like to thank you guys for your continued support as we work on our mission to be worthy advocates. As always, full show notes are available at rottenmangopodcast.com. With that being said, today's case has mentions of internment, essay, trafficking, torture. Please take a break. This is a very heavy case. Another note, South Korea at the time that this took place was not a democracy. It was run by a dictator. So clearly times were different, but I don't know how different, because these things keep repeating in history, not just in South Korea, but everywhere. Additionally, our amazing Korean researchers and translators were able to travel out to some of the survivors in today's episode. They conducted interviews. They translated the survivor's book, The Surviving Child, written by Han Jung-sun. He's a huge part of the case. We will refer to him as Han, which he explains why he even wrote this book in the first place. He says, no media outlets try to directly talk to the welfare center victims. No one has listened to the victims' stories about what actually happened there. It seems like they didn't even want to try listening. So in the end, many citizens have no idea about the reality of what's happened. One last note, this is part 3 of the case. This is the final part. In part 1, we went through the torture games of the Brothers Welfare Center, which are very similar to Squid Game. In part 2, we did a deep dive on what they do with the 551 plus dead bodies that were at the facility, as well as some of the torture methods and what happens when you escape. And in this episode, we're going to go in depth on the wealthy benefactors of these games, the facility, if you will. So with that being said, let's get started. There's been a lot of recent conspiracy theories surrounding Squid Games, like how BTS's V is going to be in season 3 of Squid Games. So that's
I was like, conspiracy theories. I guess they just mean, like, what's going to be happening in Squid Game.
a huge conspiracy.
I think season 3 is airing right now. 'Cause again, like I mentioned, maybe like last episode or whatnot, like I didn't realize there was even going to be a season 3 because I thought people were already mad that they were making a season 2. But I think season 3 is like on right now. Again, not that I know, I don't have Netflix, so I can't just go check that. But I'm guessing season 3 is already airing.
I guess theory, not a conspiracy. Or like how everyone is related. That the old man player 001 from season 1, the old man, could be the father of our main character, Ki-hoon, or as well as the father of the front man, the one that facilitates the games in the all black guard suit. So there's so many conspiracies of what if they're all connected. There's also the conspiracy that the front man, he's infiltrated the games to just presumably teach the main character a lesson. That at the end of the day, all humans are the same. That if given the chance to do what the front man does, or the chance to be a VIP, they will choose to do that. Or a really crazy theory that there's this old lady in the second season. She joined the games because she needs to make money so that she can pay off her son's gambling debt. And her son is also in the games, right? That she might be the wife of the old man that started the games. There's so many conspiracies. There's a character in the game that happens to be heavily pregnant. Naturally, there's theories about her and her unborn baby. One, that perhaps the main character might have to sacrifice himself to save her and her unborn child, make sure that she's the last one standing. Or another conspiracy, that in the end, everyone must die, and the only thing in the corner that is surviving is that little baby. That she gives birth, and only one can survive, so she has to sacrifice herself so her baby lives on. So many. But a lot of the recent conspiracy theories have to do with the VIPs of the show.
Like I said before, I haven't seen the show. I probably never will, but I just assumed like the main guy just dies, right? Because it just seems like one of those shows where like the good guy loses, right? Like he won the first season, but because you've chosen to make a second season, now you can't keep having the good guy win. You have to turn it into good guys finish last, right? So he has to die. And just for nothing. Like he did all that for nothing. He won the first Squid Game, but he's trying to expose them, but it's just all gonna come for nothing. So that's what I'm assuming how this all ends. Season 2 is already over, right? And then 3, like this was like 5 months ago, but I feel like season 2 came out a long time ago, didn't it? Question mark? Did she just record this a long time ago? I don't know. Is season 3 actually airing? But yeah, I just assume that's the kind of story this is going to be. Like, he dies in season 2 or 3 or whatever, and I would assume 2. He dies in 2, and then just show moves on to someone else in season 3, I guess, whoever is left out of those people.
The premise of the show is that every year, hundreds of contestants that are riddled with debt are invited to have a chance to win tens of millions of dollars, typically around $40 million. And the catch is, once you enter the game, you're taken to a facility in the middle of nowhere with no escape, guarded by pink suit-wearing guards while you wear a green tracksuit, and you're forced to play and win childhood games, and if you lose the game, you die on the spot. But that prize money, the facility, the guards, they have to be funded somehow. It is funded by a global elite club of VIPs that find it enjoyable and entertaining to watch these people fight to the death for, to them, what feels like pennies. In season 1, it's so interesting. You get a glimpse of the VIPs. They're watching while getting served food and drinks. A lot of the masks are eerily similar to the ones worn at the Surrealist ball held by the Rothschild family.
I'm assuming that's where she was going to go with that, since we were talking about them wearing the mask at that ball. We're trying to paint them as the people who are funding the real world thing, the brothers' home. Is that what we're trying to say? Or are we trying to say that a real conspiracy is that this show knows who and what all happens at the brothers' home, and they're saying, "Oh well, we know, but we can't say we know, so we're just going to make a show showing that, hey, you know, these guys are pretty similar to that group of people who in real life." Just saying.
The stag horns, the bejeweled masks, they're so similar.
I mean, they're not surreal, they're just animal masks. Decorated animal masks.
In season 2, though, someone points out a conspiracy. They never show the VIPs again in season 2. They never show them. They never show them watching, their reactions, nothing, even though they did in season 1. Would it not be more natural to show them again? There could be a play of dynamic of people are dying and the VIPs are reacting, and maybe they form interpersonal relationships and they grow attached to some characters and not other characters. But no. And at one point, it feels like the main character breaks the fourth wall and is telling others in the game that the VIPs are watching them. But it almost feels like he's looking at us, the viewers, watching
Like
Netflix.
We're in the game.
Yeah. Leading to the conspiracy that we, all the people of the world, are the VIPs watching for entertainment. Others are saying, well, maybe it's not you and me that they're looking at, but maybe they're breaking the fourth wall looking at the elites of the world. It's a nod to them because they might be watching this too. We know what you're doing. One netizen comments, I don't think Squid Games is even hiding anything. I think the purpose of this show is that this is actually happening somewhere in the world for real. At Brother's home, everyone hates to see Madam Park coming. Once
No clue who that is. I'm assuming she's going to tell us.
you hear her shoes click-clacking down the long hallway, all the doors leading up to the rooms filled with bunk beds with children in there. I mean, you just know that somebody's in trouble. They need Jesus. That is why Madam Park is called, because they need Jesus. Usually she has her purse and it's filled to the brim with choco pies. They're like these fluffy cream sandwiches. I guess imagine Oreos, but fluffy, just packets of
It's just a moon pie.
individual choco pies in her purse. Walking down the hall, she's staring at the hundreds of children standing at attention because they're like, please don't let it be me. Please don't let it be me. Which one is it? The guards point at the two boys and they already look like they've been beat. Nothing we've done seems to fix it, Madam Park. We've already tried everything. We've tried the first step as well. The guards mean that they've already tried to tie the private parts of the two boys together with a small thread.
What?
Huh? What?
The logic behind it is these two boys keep peeing in their sleep. They keep wetting the bed
Something that just naturally happens to children.
as they sleep. If they're connected by their privates, if one of them starts wetting the bed while they're sleeping, then the other boy's private part gets wet and he wakes up and says, hey, wake up. You're using the restroom. We got to go use the restroom. It almost never works. So the
I mean, the amount of time that would take. Like, the bed is already peed at that point. So, like, what? It's not, like, instantaneous.
idea that they continue the practice seems to be based off of torture alone. And if that doesn't work, which is almost always, the next step that the guards do is call in Madam Park. She's the cure. She sits down with the boys, and if this is your first time seeing Madam Park, she almost seems maternal. She looks like a little ajumma, like a church lady, and she's got all these children's snacks in her purse. You know I can help you, right? The truth is, the reason you're doing this is, it's the demons. The demons are making you wet the bed. Come here. She makes the boys one by one, all the bedwetters, lay on her lap, on their backs. Their private part is across her lap, and she pulls down their pants and their underwear, and she starts grabbing and squeezing their private areas. Say it with me. Lord, I believe. And then she'll squeeze as hard as she can, and they all scream out in pain. She screams, boys who believe in the Lord will be cured. Many victims say that the pain is so unbearable that you can't even think. You can't even think to say what she wants you to say because you just want to stop the pain, yes, but you can't even think to say, what did she tell me to say again? I just need to scream. It's almost a reflex. Until finally, it's just white hot pain and they're screaming, I believe in the Lord, I believe in the Lord. And it seems like their vision is going white. Only then will the madam let you put your pants back on. And as you wipe your face with all the tears, this is also documented in the book, she will reach into her purse and pull out a singular choco pie. It is the best and worst thing many of them will taste in weeks. Han, the author of the book, if you watch the first 2 episodes, he's the survivor that authored the book that was used for source material, but also he's the one that was trapped with his sister. He and his sister were taken to the brothers' home by police officers after their father dropped them off one drunk evening. He just didn't know how to take care of the kids anymore. Han, like many of the other survivors, he has these nightmares, but this one feels different.
Bit confused on who's who because we have like multiple of these situations, right? There's another kid who had well, there's a kid with the father who's been looking for him this whole time, but I think the main guy Han there was the one who got dropped off, right? I mean, that's what she just said.
Like you're being...
But I'm assuming he is having nightmares about killing that. Didn't he say he wanted to kill him? So when he saw him, he was going to kill him. Did he end up showing up? I think he also ended up showing up at the facility. But of course, the Han was not happy about that.
Being watched. I mean, it's crazy how humans can feel the feeling of being stared at. Han opens his eyes, and right in front of his face are 2 floating eyeballs just glowing in the dark, unblinking. He jumps up out of bed, turns on the light, and it's his older sister, the one that was trapped with him at brother's home.
I thought the older sister is in the other...
Psych ward?
Yeah.
This is once they're out. They're trying to live together once they escape. We're going to go into detail on how they all escape.
Oh.
And
we still haven't got to that point. I mean, there's only so much more left to go. I mean, there's still like almost little less than an hour, right? But still, we still have not gotten to how they got out.
And he turns on the light. Shine, what are you doing? I told you we're supposed to sleep now. Yeah, I'll go to sleep. But when Han looks up again, she's not asleep. His older sister is just sitting there staring at the wall. Some nights she laughs at the wall. Other nights she cries at the wall. Whenever Han would ask her, Shine, why are you laughing? Why are you crying? She'll turn around and tell him stories about their lives before brother's home. She never talks about what happened at brother's home, at least not in these moments. Han says, there was a time I thought about just killing everyone. For me, I had nothing to lose. It was entirely possible to do it. I could have become a psychopath that society could learn to fear. I could have. Instead, he thought, well, why don't I just start small? I'll just kill one person first. I'll kill my dad. Because he thought, he's the reason that we're in brother's home. My older sister, who was so smart, so very kind, ended up in brother's home, put on psych ward meds. I mean, she lost her mind in there. She was beat every single day. She was tortured in ways that, I mean, Han was tortured the same way. They were both essayed. It was a lot. The whole thing became more complicated when Han finds out that his dad was also trapped in brother's home later, but that doesn't make things better. So over a decade after they're released, Han decides, I can't do this anymore. For the past decade after brother's home, I've just been floating around. My sister is still not my sister, like the sister I remember. I gotta do something. So he goes to see his dad with a knife. He says, I visited my father. He didn't realize I was his son. He didn't recognize me, but I recognized him. And
how? Because I'm almost certain that I guess he hadn't seen him since they escaped. Since when the father got thrown into the brother's home, he knew his son. Like he walked up to his son and said, "How's your sister?" Right? He said something like that. So 10 years later, he can't recognize his son as an adult.
at the time I was carrying my knife. My intention was to kill my father. I asked him, do you remember sending your children to Brothers Welfare Center? He responded, I remember. I had no choice at the time. It was difficult. Again, his father does not recognize him. He asks, sir, what do you think Brothers Home was like for your children? Do you think it was a nice place for your kids? Han said if his dad said anything along the lines of, I think it was okay. I think it wasn't the best, but it's okay.
He was there. How was he ever going to say it was okay? He literally experienced it too. Not obviously as bad, because I don't think any of the adults were assaulted. Maybe they were. I think you would have a hard time if we're just thinking about it logically. You would have a hard time assaulting an adult man. So I doubt that. So he did not have it as rough as the kids. Plus, they're children, so of course everything's gonna be worse for them. But I don't think that he at any universe he would think, oh yeah, they had a good time because he was there too. He was seeing it. He was experiencing some of it.
Okay, he would have killed them right then and there. He would have no second thoughts about it. His father opens his mouth, looks up at Han. That place was not a place for humans. They broke my ribs in there. I was beaten badly. I feel, and Han could see the guilt in his dad's face, and for a second Han is holding the knife in his pocket, but he thinks, what if I were my dad? Would I have done the same thing? What if I had no money? The government said, the Olympics are coming. We want to help clean up the streets. We'll take care of your kid. We'll feed your kid. We'll educate your kid for you. Your kid will be better off. Would I send my kid there? Maybe, because it's the government. And they both stare at each other, and before Han asks, who do you think I am standing in front of you? I don't know, some government official? Are you here to monitor me or something? I'm your son. Han writes, my father's eyes suddenly lit up. He looked up at me for a moment and then suddenly lowered his eyes. After that, he didn't say another word for 3 years. I think he was tormented by guilt. Han tells his dad that he'll be back to see him. And since then, Han has visited his dad every single month in the psych ward. After being released, Han...
Oh. Didn't realize that's where he was, but I mean, I guess it makes sense for him to be able to access his dad, and his dad has like, why are you in my house? So I guess that makes sense that his dad was in the ward.
Every single month in the psych ward. After being released, Han's dad has been left in the psych ward, and on Han's way out, he throws out his knife. After escaping Brother's home, the biggest memory Han has was being in Brother's home, and the words were just ringing in his head. He didn't even know what he was thinking about. It just kept saying, with a knife. He would wake up, and in his mind, it would just say, with a knife, with a knife, with a knife, with a knife. And he initially thought, once he gets out, okay, I'm going to kill everyone with a knife. Like, I've lost my mind in there. I'm going to turn into a psychopath so that people will listen to me, and I'm going to stab everybody with a knife. And then he thinks, no, I'm just going to kill my dad with a knife. That's what my brain was telling me to do. But now he realizes, with a knife, that feeling, I just want to carve out my painful memories with a knife in my head. He wishes he could just cleanly cut those memories from Brother's home and throw them away. And for 25 years, nothing happens until 2012. A man named Vincent steps into a taxi, a cab in Los Angeles. He offers the cab driver a very interesting proposal. Drive me around to 5 different stops and get paid $600. Max, the cab driver, he agrees because he doesn't know that Vincent is going to 5 different places to kill 5 different people. He's a hitman.
Huh? Just hitman out of nowhere. What is happening now?
Are the people he's killing bad people? Are they good people? Vincent doesn't care. He doesn't know. He just kills them. But Max cares. He doesn't want to be a part of this. All he wants to do is save up enough money to open up his own limo company. That's it. He's not even supposed to be a cab driver. He's been a cab driver for decades, but he's really supposed to be a limo company owner. This is all temporary. He's just trying to save up enough money to start his own company. And all of this is just, it's rough. And Max starts putting 2 and 2 together. He knows that he is going to be collateral. If Max knows what Vincent is doing and the police know that 5 people are dead, that means wouldn't Vincent logically, if he is a hitman that he is pretending to be that day, would he not kill Max and frame everything on him as collateral damage? In the car, Max, the cab driver, asks Vincent, why haven't you killed me yet? Because I know you're killing people.
Why are you throwing yourself under the bus like that? Because maybe he didn't know that you knew, though maybe he's not doing that. Also, who is this hitman killing? Is it someone from Brother's home, like a blue tracksuit, and they're going around killing some of the guards that used to work there? Question mark? That would make sense. right?
Haven't you killed me yet? Answer the question.
How did he find out that wants to kill people?
Oh, he's been going place to place killing people. And he gave up his little facade and has started killing people in front of Max.
What?
Max is like, just tell me, why haven't you killed me yet? Vincent tells him, look in the mirror. Look at me. Paper towels, clean cab. How much you got saved up for your limo company? That isn't any of your business. Someday my dream will come. Yeah, well, one night you'll wake up and discover it never happened. It all turned around on you. It never will. Suddenly you're old. Didn't happen, never will, because you were never going to do it anyway. You're being hypnotized by daytime TV for the rest of your life. What the f are you doing still driving a cab? Max, in a weird twist, has this wake-up moment where he starts driving the cab faster and faster, realizing Vincent's planning on killing him. And he starts running red lights, going 100 miles per hour. You're right. You're right, Vincent. We're all floating on a rock in the universe. Nothing matters anyway, does it? Does it? If not now, then when? Right, Vincent? And he purposefully flips the car over, nearly killing the both of them, but ultimately taking control over his own life.
I feel like this is something that's been talked about before, if not in movies, somewhere.
This is the plot of the
See, that's what I was talking about. This is a movie.
2004 movie Collateral.
Oh, ad? Yeah, because I was like, I could swear that's like a plot that's used sometimes. Pretty often. Also, how are we way back in the past with this ad read? Because she still has the star on her cheek. We're looking at the bedroom, question mark. We're no longer in the new fancy place. I mean, this place was new and fancy. But we've already moved on to another place already. So I'm guessing this was recorded way in advance for this video. Sounds like this is about investing stuff, which I don't really pay attention to any of that kind of stuff. Acorn. I wonder if there's going to be extra ads in this one. Because sometimes she does like double ad reads, right? But anyways, what does Collateral have to do with this story? Because again, I could have immediately I was like, wait, hold on, this just sounds like a movie, and in fact it was a movie. But did something like this happen in real life? How is that relevant to this story?
There's this moment where Tom Cruise's character, Vincent, says something along the lines of, you became a hostage to someone like me because all you do is dream.
I'm pretty sure, I swear to God, I watched this movie in the theaters with my dad. I swear. When it came out.
Achieve your dream, you should have done everything, but you didn't. Han says,
Jamie Foxx there as the driver.
To achieve your dream, you should have done everything, but you didn't. Han says, 2012, he's watching that movie, and he realizes, listening to that conversation, I thought, it felt like he was speaking to me directly. Nobody had been speaking about Brother's home. What had happened there, we all just sat in our own places, agonizing and thinking about it. It almost felt like it didn't happen. That was the moment I decided I was going to tell the world what happened in Brother's home.
Crazy that movie, of all things, was what made him just snap out of his funk and be like, I'm telling everybody.
Even if it killed me. Prior to Han protesting at the National Assembly in South Korea, for the past 25 years, nobody has even spoken up about Brother's home. None of the other victims or survivors. Everybody hid it. Sometimes people hid it from their future spouses, partners, kids. Nobody in society wants to feel bad for people without homes that are begging on the street. They are humans that need to be cleaned up. The stigma was so strong that the victims, once they escaped Brother's home, being tortured for years, forced to play these weird torture games, some were left permanently paralyzed. Some had each of their teeth plucked out one by one for fun. They have no teeth. Most of them were essayed by guards every night for years. They're forced to do manual labor, and yet they can't tell anyone about it because they're going to be judged. Han said during his protest, one citizen even grabbed him by the collar. He's peacefully protesting in front of the National Assembly. This citizen spit in his face and said, what? Even people like you, scum of the earth, want taxpayer money now?
Wow.
Some cursed at him. Others looked at him with pity and said, Kid, you're hitting a rock with an egg. Give it up. But he stood there every single day sharing his story. I am a 37-year-old man. I was 9 years old when I was taken into Brother's home. This is the 9-year-old me speaking. Please listen. I have no idea where my life went wrong or why I have to live like this. Being born as one in billions, I wonder if I might have been sent on some kind of mission. But looking at myself now, it seems like I have no mission at all. I'm just pathetically aging. Han explains that his dad and sister are now confined to a mental hospital, even after being out of Brother's home. They cannot adjust back to society, and there's nothing that he can do to help them. All he can do is visit them, using what little money he has left to buy snacks. And he splits them exactly in half. If he accidentally purchases 3 of the same snack, because sometimes the supermarket does buy 2 get 1 free specials, he has to either eat the 3rd one or keep it for the next time he visits. When our researchers went to interview Han and his sister, they told the researchers that they have a really hard time sharing food. They all do, most of the victims from Brother's home. In Korea, when you go out to eat, you often order family style, meaning you order like a bunch of big plates, fish, beef dishes, veggie dishes, and then a big thing of rice comes out and you all put onto your little plate and you eat kind of like a Thanksgiving meal, but that's typical for a lot of restaurants.
So they said they had a hard time sharing, that's what you said? I mean, I'm assuming that's just obvious because they had nothing for so long that they don't want to let anything go once they actually have it, right?
Han and his sister don't really feel comfortable, and they preface this because they don't want to make our researchers feel awkward.
Like that, or the opposite, where like they don't feel like they should be taking anything because they've lived so long by having nothing. They are too ashamed is not the right word. They just don't want to gorge on anything. They don't want to take too much or take anything, like I said, at all.
They say it's
It's like they don't deserve it, right?
comfortable, and they preface this because they don't want to make our researchers feel awkward. They say it's after years of fighting for our food and eating from a single dish, sharing can be very stressful.
Wow.
Like subconsciously, we feel that when others serve themselves, of course we want them to eat, but we feel like our own portions shrink.
Okay, so it is the first one. It's just they spent so long with nothing, fighting over scraps. It's hard to try and share.
Even though we know logically now we can just order more food, but it's really hard. Han will have to monitor his sister's water intake throughout dinner. She almost has an addiction to liquids, mainly water. Back at Brother's home, the water that they had to drink was extremely unclean. There were little squiggly things that were alive, moving around inside, swimming.
Dude, parasites?
Flies would get in the water and drown, and that's the only water that they received. So whenever Han's sister gets water to drink, she drinks it excessively to the point where it hurts her stomach.
She did get water poisoning. She drinks too much. I mean, they probably don't give her enough to get water poisoning, but you need to be worried about getting water poisoning by drinking like gallons of water.
Our researcher noted that Han's sister has a very young charm about her. She behaves more similarly to a younger girl, even though she's in her 40s now. She has very high emotional intelligence, and she's very attentive to others around her, asking how she should properly address them. One thing they noticed is that she has these really long, graceful fingers. When she picks things up and puts them down, it's like someone who's done ballet for years. It's very elegant. But then at one point in the dinner, she looks at her nail and then just breaks it off. Just like that, unprompted. It seems perhaps to be a stress response. Just like other interviews with other victims that we found online, Han's sister will stop talking about her experience at Brother's home to medicate. She has at least 8 pills that she takes 3 times a day. Some are antidepressants, anxiety meds, other psychiatric meds, and Han interestingly takes none. He tells our researchers that the doctors are actually more concerned for him because his sister is medicated so they can try to stabilize her condition, whereas for him, he can't be medicated because he's trying to take care of his sister. But because
Yeah, but they're probably scared that he's a ticking time bomb, not being on meds, because he's already stated himself that he was ready to just murder anyone and everyone, right? But it just seems like his, how would you describe it? I don't know. We'll get back to that thought.
Because he has all this trauma and no way of really helping. Not that medication is the only solution, but it just puts him at a higher risk. But Han will do anything for his sister. He says when he first got her out of the mental institution, this is after Brother's Home, she was sent to another mental facility. He fought to get her out, and she wanted to go back. He realized, they're at the hospital. You can't eat when you want. You can't skip meals. You don't make choices. So the real world, all the freedom to make choices was overwhelming her. He said it reminded him of, those beautiful birds that have their feathers plucked out to prevent them from flying. And over time, even if no one pulls out their feathers, they pluck them out themselves. It's like a bird locking themselves back in the cage because it feels safer. But now she's learning to love her freedom. And Han asks her researchers, what kind of colors do you think people like us like? People like me who have gone through all of this. Think about it. A lot of people will say we like dark and gloomy colors. But most of us, the victims and survivors of Brother's Home, we all like really bright colors. When thinking about how he even survived Brother's Home, he says, I think it's from my sister.
I would assume we can be like, yeah, we like colors, but not blue. I would have to assume there's no way in heck that any of these people like the color blue.
About how he even survived Brother's Home, he says, I think it's from my sister. I think it's because in this world, only my sister loves me without discrimination. But still, how did they get out of Brother's Home?
Okay, so we're finally going to get to that. But yeah, I still didn't think of like how I would describe it, but like he is, not to use like new age like Zoomer slang and whatnot, but he's locked in on taking care of his sister and just not letting anything happen to her. I'm assuming he cares. Obviously, he's probably like slightly less for his dad, but I think he at least is okay with his dad now. Like he sees some understanding there of what had happened. But yeah, he is just his trauma and those thoughts of like murder or whatever are heavily overpowered by his will to protect his sister, I guess. Like his willpower is just strong enough to not let any of that stuff happen. Like he's very strong-willed, maximum will, and maybe because of his sister, right? How much will that his sister showed to him in the Brother's Home that has like, how would you say it? Like forged his willpower to be just as strong, right? Now that we're out in the real world.
The prosecutor in the woods has pictures of what Brother's Home is doing to their victims. In fact,
Okay, back to this guy. Now we're gonna get to see what happened.
he has multiple pictures. The ones that he took when he stumbled upon the construction site in the middle of the woods. I mean, this is a slam dunk case. Are you kidding? Chaining people by the ankles, throwing them into a warehouse, locking them up, padlocking it from the outside. The prosecutor.
Oh, slam dunk. Oof. You're about to get thrown into the Brother's Home yourself. But yeah, his will, just one last note. His will has become unbreakable, I'm going to say. That's what has happened to Han, it seems. All that, forged in fire, right? Again, seeing his sister and her willpower in there, and now having to take care of her, he's unbreakable now, we could say.
Prosecutor thought, my thoughts on this were quite simple. This is a very serious crime. Even confining and forcing one person to do labor is a very serious crime. Confining and forcing hundreds into labor, I mean, there's no room for excuses. We have to launch an investigation. He gets a search warrant for Brother's Home. He says the first thing he noticed when he walked into that massive compound.
Wait a minute. You got a search warrant for this place? How? You're just, I guess he's like an attorney, but you can get that kind of power? I feel like the police would not let this fly. They would just throw you in there. Like, you're in the wolf's den now.
60 plus buildings in the middle of the woods in Busan. The smell. It's like human grease. Like you don't wash your hair for a few days and it starts to smell like scalp, but so much worse. Every building is darkly lit. He says the team that I went in, the prosecutors, We couldn't believe that a place like this exists in Korea, even though we were standing there, seeing it with our own eyes.
How do y'all get in? How are you not being killed and beaten?
During the search warrant, they find
Legally.
a massive safe in the back, the size of a bank vault, where they found $8 million with a ton of foreign currency in there. And the prosecutor is looking around like, bring me whoever is in charge of this place now.
And I don't know how the government let this happen. How did they let these guys in?
The prosecutor himself can tell what kind of power he has because everybody around him starts hurrying. To do what? I don't know, to call the director of this place. All of them are running around acting busy because he's a prosecutor. They're going to look busy even if they're not. They're going to try their best to look like they're innocent. That's normal. This is how normal people react and respond to prosecutors like him. So he sits there and he waits for the director. He waits and he waits, and the director walks in, and you would think that the prosecutor begged for this meeting on his hands and knees like a dog. His name is Director Park.
Okay, the husband of this other lady, but I noticed this earlier, that, again, I'm guessing, again, these two are married. Why is he shirtless? Potentially naked? I mean, again, I think these two are together, but because he was naked, I assumed it was, like he was part of the Brotherhood. Like, he was supposed to be a blue tracksuit, but he is the guy. He also looks, he's strong-ish, right? I was expecting that. Okay, he has some definition there, because these people are beating these people up constantly. I don't know if is he also the pastor? So you see the priest, and he's out there beating people up too, so he must be pretty strong too, to just be doing that on the regular, and not get exhausted. I'm guessing they make sure that they can do this kind of stuff. 'Cause I guess they have to have strong guards if they're going to keep this place locked down.
This is Madam Park's husband.
Yeah.
He runs this place.
Assume
He
that.
started this place. He's a short, unassuming ajashi. He looks like a regular, like 50-something-year-old man. He does have a more built figure. He used to be a boxer. He walks in and he's instantly agitated. Someone like me cannot be interrogated by someone like you. Let's not even have this conversation. Bring me the chief prosecutor. Bring me your boss. No, you know what? Bring me your boss's 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 boss.
You're kidding. That's what he said.
Yes.
Wow.
Where the hell does this guy get this type of confidence? To have this level of confidence when facing a prosecutor, you have to have one of two things.
Again, like, yeah, I was like, how do you even get in here? He has the police and the government on his side. So how are you even allowed in?
A very serious crime like this one, kidnapping, entrapping, forcing thousands of people into what can only be considered the closest thing to a modern day concentration camp in South Korea.
I mean, that's why I said that last episode. It's literally a concentration camp. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's a concentration camp.
That's how people have described it. You have to have three things. A lot of money. A lot of money. 2, you better have connections. Not your average, I want an aquarium in my home the size of a dining table by 3 p.m. connections. You better be well connected to the most powerful people. If you're talking like that to a prosecutor, maybe you're like a Tibar. That level of connection. And 3, you better have a lot of luck on your side. So who the hell is Park In-gun, the director? Mr. and Mrs. Park are living legends in the welfare sector in South Korea, for nothing other than starting, running, and expanding their business of Brothers Home, the welfare center in South Korea that has kidnapped, entrapped, and tortured 3,500 plus people, making them work in factories 12 hours a day with no pay, and ultimately if they die from severe beatings, they're just buried in the massive grave in the compound, or their bodies are sold for medical purposes. The government is paying the Parks for every head they bring in. They're receiving government subsidies, forced labor contributions. Park, the director, the man behind this facility, we don't even know much about him. We just know that he used to be a boxer at one point. Not a famous one, not a good one, but a greedy one. He just wanted to make a lot of money. It didn't really matter to him how he makes money as long as he makes money. He never wanted anyone to know that. In fact, even at Brothers Home, in front of thousands of people that he is actively taking advantage of and torturing, he has the audacity to act like he's helping everyone. He makes it sound like he spent his own personal assets to help people, that he's this pure godly man. It's so bizarre. And nobody could complain because they knew that Director Park was very close friends with the then dictator Chun Doo-han.
Okay, so he is friends with the lead guy, and that makes sense. Roll me back to him trying to correct this person. I wanted to see something. Roll me back. Watch that again.
People that he is actively taking advantage of and torturing. He has the audacity to act like he's helping everyone. He makes it sound like he spent his...
Yeah, I mean, let's say he's like getting upset with this kid, question mark, if this person's actually a child. But I was saying his posture is not amazing. I think this is like at an angle. He's slightly slouching forward. So, I mean, like, fix your posture first before you start fixing others, right? Unless that's just normal for them.
Personal asset. So bizarre. And nobody could complain because they knew that Director Park was very close friends with the then dictator Chun Doo-han, the dictator of South Korea, the most powerful man in the country at the time.
What?
Like, how did he even become friends with this guy in the beginning, in the first place? Did they grow up together, and then this man just happened to become dictator, and then they just happened to stay friends?
What's their relationship? Is it just close?
It seems like they're close friends now. He won multiple awards, and then I don't think they started off as friends.
Okay, so not childhood friends.
He started building Brothers Home, won an award, cozied up with the then dictator, and then...
So Brothers Home got him in cahoots with the dictator.
It became friendly. The government would even help fund these vanity projects. The Director Park would be the main character. So they would promote how great welfare centers in South Korea are, and there would be a narrator for this, honestly, propaganda film, and the narration would start. A blue fireball burns inside Director Park's chest. In the mental structure of vagrants, it seems that the concept or even the habit of law and order was not ingrained in them, even from birth. The welfare center houses vagrants and homeless people from 2 years old to 70 years old.
I mean, 2 years, they're not even normal functioning yet. Like, hello? Of course they don't know right from wrong. They're 2 years old.
Weird propaganda films would go on to state that this is a day in the life of our director. A vagrant holds a knife to the director's wife's neck and stages a hostage situation demanding... They're literally cosplaying this, acting this out for a propaganda film. What? Demanding to be let out of the facility. Director Park prays, Lord, what should I do? Should I let them kill my innocent wife, or should I give in to the evil vagrant's demands? The narration continues. The vagrant believes order is oppression, but how is that so? The vagrant repents his wrongdoings after Director Park persuades him and prays for him. Director Park has fixed the vagrant. Director Park has always firmly resolved to watch over the people until the very last person. The government funded these videos, and, I mean, they would have segments that even say, homeless people, people who have run away from home, beggars, all these people are being accepted at Brothers Home. The video even shows tours of the psych wards. Here, there are not only vagrants and children, there are psychiatric patients, mentally unstable patients, disabled people. In the cafeteria that we have here, there are 5 choices of side dishes that everyone can choose from.
Yeah, I was wondering this earlier because she was saying that they're just eating trash, basically, just rot, and not being, basically getting almost none of that. Like, you're being fed rot, and on the fact that you're being fed rot, you're being fed barely any rot.
The video
but
shows
in these videos, they're getting so much food, like a mountain of rice. It's ridiculous. Like, you can even see some of it here, like there. That is a mountain of rice, and that's not even the full meal. They're gonna get this stuff, whatever this is, whatever is like down over here that we can't see. Like, they're getting so much food. So I guess it was just for these propaganda videos.
Massive amounts of fresh food being dished onto everybody's plate.
That's what I'm saying. Like, what is this? Like, hello? This is pounds of rice. So, like, there's no way that's what's happening. At this, so we were told that they're just basically getting fed basically nothing, and it's rotten on top of that. Not mountains of rice. Like, who can even eat that much? Like, I feel like I eat a lot for dinner, specifically. And it's nowhere near this. Like, this pound of rice, this mound of rice, is like a million times more than what I eat.
Which you know is not true. We talked about this in part 2.
Again, like that's so much food. Jesus Christ.
You know, the truth is
Did they actually get to eat that? I feel like they're wasting this food. Like they're just using it for the propaganda and they're just gonna throw it away.
everybody is starving inside of Brother's home. They're eating baby mice, sucking on pine cones, eating caterpillars to get nutrition. But this propaganda film is showing them eating like kings. And they show Director Park and his wife always eats meals with everyone at Brother's home. One victim says, Director Park was as close to as a monster as it gets. He really is a monster. Hardly anyone could even look him in the eye. You know how one word from the North Korean dictator, the whole country responds? It was exactly the same in Brother's home. One word from Director Park and everyone moves under his order. And it's interesting that the propaganda videos are very reminiscent of something North Korea would put out. But now
Yeah, I mean, like I thought this was North Korea in the first video before she said it was South Korea.
he's been arrested. The doors to all the buildings in the massive compound are... But now
Roll it back.
that the propaganda videos are very reminiscent of something North Korea would put out. But now he's been arrested. The doors to all the buildings in the massive compound are open. Sunshine is coming in and it's the best disinfectant. Victims are speaking with the prosecution. Director Park would say things like, you guys are all evil in society. Even if you were to catch diseases, skin diseases in here, you're not worth being treated. You are scum. You're making South Korea a worse place. They're telling the prosecutors everything. If someone tried to escape, Director Park would tell them, you are a social evil. And then they would be beaten in front of every single person at the mandatory church segments every single Sunday.
Is he the one that's beating people with the boxing gloves or no?
Yeah, he and his brother-in-law, Pastor Lim. Pastor Lim is the more religious one. That's his brother-in-law. So this whole compound is really run by Director Park, Director Park's wife, Madam Park, and then her sister and her sister's brother-in-law.
Her sister's brother-in-law.
Yeah, it's like a whole family business.
And they're just beating people with a boxing glove while running this religious
Yeah.
church
Yeah.
camp.
And Pastor Lim was, okay, I don't even want to call him Pastor Lim. Lim, he was technically the pastor at the church, and he did this. A lot of victims believe he did this because they say when you're a welfare center in South Korea at the time, no one internationally wants to donate.
Yeah, we talked about this last time. Is that the only way for them to get? How can they get more money? And it's like if you don't have a religious tie to your place, you're not going to get any donations. But you get free donations if you have some religious ties. Thus, they needed to add religion to it.
But if
Like, it wasn't that they believed or anything. They just needed more ways to make money.
you say, hey, we're a Christian welfare center in South Korea, a lot of Christian churches in America and overseas would donate. And they would just steal the donations. Yeah. They would even run these big campaigns of, these were kids without homes. And we took them in, and now we want to reunite them with their families. But we need money to do that. We need manpower. So a lot of people overseas was donating to the church. And there was a victim who came forward and said, I was a child with a home, parents and siblings. I just couldn't understand why I was there, why I was being trapped in this place and being robbed of a proper education. I clearly gave Pastor Lim my home address and phone number. I even told him, my parents run a Chinese restaurant. Here is where you need to go and look. They took me to a different neighborhood, found a random Chinese restaurant, threw me in there and said, hey, owner, is this your kid? The owners shook their head because obviously these are not my parents.
Yeah, it's just more reasons, more government paperwork reasons to be like, no, you're lying. You don't have any parents. Because again, like for some reason they need these like weird red tape-ish kind of things where they're not just like kidnapping. They have to like, okay, make them admit that they're a quote unquote vagrant. Now we're doing the same thing here where it's like, oh, you don't have parents. They don't. This isn't their place. You're just lying. They keep having to make up all these fake stuff so they can be like, hey, see, they were bad. They are lying. They don't have parents, even though they don't care. But I guess it just helps with the government paperwork or something.
The owners shook their head because obviously these are not my parents. But they took that as proof that I was not wanted by my family, so I needed to stay in Brother's home. They documented this for people that were donating. As for embezzling, it's pretty clear that that is what they're doing. Another advocate says the brothers' home embezzled money by finding loopholes in the government subsidy payments. So when it came to food purchases, for example, they would receive enough money to feed 3,000 people. They would only purchase food to feed less than half of that. They got to pocket the rest of the money that's supposed to be spent. The first trial found Director Park guilty in unlawful confinement and embezzlement charges.
Oh, they're actually taking in all of them.
Mainly just Director Park.
Okay.
He was
Yeah, again, why though? That doesn't make any sense. The police are on their side. The government is on their side. The dictator of South Korea is on their side. It doesn't make sense that all of a sudden it's just like this guy shows up and it's like, okay, yeah, throw them under the bus. Like, huh? It just felt like with how they were acting, it would have made more sense just to make the attorney disappear.
ultimately imprisoned for 10 years, imprisoned with a $500,000 fine, which is far too lenient. But the problem is, Director Park appeals that decision and it goes into a second trial. The second trial results in, instead of 10 years in prison, 4 years in prison. And the new fine is $0. The sentence is then reduced by more than half and the fine vanishes. And just like that, 600 people died in Brother's home in 4 years. That's all he's getting.
Yeah.
But this too gets appealed. And finally, his ultimate final sentence gets boiled down, reduced to 2.5 years in prison and $0. The main reason for the reduction being they argued that the unlawful confinement charge, there's no proof. They're saying there's not enough proof that he was holding people against their will, which is about as unhinged as if I were to see a kangaroo building a 3-story house in the middle of Central Park. It's just absurd. The logic behind it is not making sense.
I mean, again, like the government, they kind of just use them as a scapegoat, but then let it slide. Like, okay, we're gonna say you're in trouble, but then since we're all in on it, you can have 2.5 years and then go be a billionaire often. Apparently, I guess assume Australia, just because it says Australia, like funded by a rich Australian family, unless that's just supposed to be the family that she was talking about earlier. Well, then never mind. So yeah, he's just free in 2.5 years. I'm surprised no one went to go kill him, right? I mean, you have 3,000 people and none of y'all tried to go kill him.
One victim.
I feel like it's a miracle that like none of these people seem to have become serial killers like Han wanted to be. Like how does like that many people not just unleash, right?
Says, I was a living victim and witnessed all the terrifying and horrendous abuses that were happening in there. And that wasn't enough? What power do we have? The prosecutor was being bullied by the mayor of Busan as well as the dictator at the time to drop all the charges. So it seems like there was a lot of just corruption
obviously.
to let him out. In 2.5 years, he is released and they continue to open up more welfare centers.
What?
And get government subsidies. In Squid Game Season 2, the main character tells the game makers.
Okay, so they're still doing, but did they not get rid of them to begin with? Like they just throw them in jail for 2.5 years and then they kept running? So is no one out yet? It's still like murky on like what happened there because it's just like attorney shows up and then he gets thrown in jail for 2.5 years and then gets out and starts doing it again. I need like more info on what's happening with that because that's what I've been waiting for like 3 episodes now.
You take advantage of desperate people with nowhere else to turn, and you watch as they die one by one to entertain your clients. You say it's their decision to participate like you're trying to sugarcoat it. You act like you're running some charity event. The front man responds, anyone who died was simply a player who lost the game. Trash eliminated from the competition. And as we speak, the world is filling with more and more trash. You still don't see it, do you? If the world doesn't change, the game doesn't end. The main character responds, you say that it's just the way the world works, that we should shut up and accept it and go on with our lives, but that's a story you made up to excuse your atrocities. I know that people are nothing to you but animals. You think you can buy us like racehorses. Director Park thinks like that. He opens up welfare facility after welfare facility, getting all the government funding. The facility is called Siloam House. It's a welfare facility for people with disabilities. They received in total over $11 million in just government subsidies and likely tens of millions of dollars more in the forced labor. So why not do it again? And when he finds that to be less exciting financially, he later moves to Australia. The whole
Okay, so he just goes to Australia.
family immigrates to Australia and opens up this massive golf course, sports center, hot springs. And interestingly, he buys a company called Jobstown and starts operating his business under that name. One advocate says the golf range and assets in Australia owned by the family were purchased with funds from Brothers Home. So it was bought using embezzled money. This asset represents blood and sweat of victims, and it cost them their lives.
Yeah, I mean, like, they didn't take any of his money away because of all the appeals and whatnot, so he still has all that money. They were only going to take $500,000 from him anyways. He probably has millions, if not billions, so even if they did, like, $500,000 is basically nothing to this guy at this point.
Even at the golf range, one employee was brought from Brothers Home in South Korea. He was a victim of Brothers Home, trapped there. He was flown out to Australia on a visitor visa, meaning he's not allowed to work in Australia. He's a tourist, but he's forced to work 16-hour days at the golf course, manually picking up the golf balls, fixing golf equipment, and mowing the lawns. If something is not up to standard, he alleges Director Park would use a golf club to beat the hell out of him. He said, if I was in Korea, I would try to run away again, or at least I would try to, right? But I was left in this place. I had no money, nothing. Where would I go? I don't even speak the language. To get to the nearest public transit from the golf range, it's about 30 minutes by car. Park's adult children. So Mr. and Mrs. Park, the directors, they have adult children. They would see him, Director Park, beating this employee at the golf range with a golf club, and they would never try to stop their dad.
I mean, why would they? They're kids. They're probably also twisted. Taught to be twisted, right?
He says, as soon as they saw their dad get the golf club, they would just leave. They would get in the car and run away. In fact,
They don't want to see it. Well, maybe there's some hope there, question mark, since that they might just be lying to save face, right? So you can't take that with a grain of salt. But turning away from something is implying that it's something bad, and you know it's something bad. So at least they know this is wrong, which is at least something.
in fact, Australian citizens saw this, that Park was hitting the employee. So this is clearly Park thinks he can just get away with anything. That day, the lawnmower's tires kept falling off and he wasn't able to cut the grass that well that week. The grass had grown. The golf balls are practically hiding in the grass. He could barely find them. Park is pissed. He grabs a golf club in front of everybody at the golf course and just goes in on the employee. The police are called in Australia. They investigate and nothing. Everything goes back to normal. That employee was stuck there for 8 years.
Yeah, I don't know how that even happens. Again, Australia, he just can't be touched. I mean, it's not like he's in Korea anymore. Just untouchable.
Said I just curled up for about 30 minutes and I was unable to move. The youngest daughter, Park Chi-hee, is now the director of the golf range in Sydney. She and her husband.
Today?
Yes.
How old is she now? Do you know?
She's probably in her 30s. The golf range is being listed for sale right now for $11 million. It is poorly maintained, but claims to profit about $300,000 a year. The daughter, she's the one running it. Park is dead now.
Okay,
But she's posting a
probably dead of old age, though, not like, murdered by some of the tracksuits, which you could hope that would be an outcome, them just turning it back on him, but of course that's not humane, so.
about going on overseas vacations, international trips. She refuses to talk to reporters. Clearly, she knows what's going on. She knows what her parents have done. Her husband later tells a reporter, we're only obligated to answer questions in the court of law.
So Park is dead. What about Mrs. Park?
She's alive. Pastor Lim is alive, and they're all in Australia. They run a church.
Oh my goodness.
Pastor Lim spends his time doing chores, playing golf. One news station tried to get an interview with him, following him, asking him, do you have any intentions of apologizing to the victims? And he laughed and he said, apologize for what?
Wow.
Meanwhile, the victims, for them, they have been suffering for decades. Initially, they state the stigma of being a vagrant was worse than the stigma of being a victim. It would be the same as telling someone that you were abused in prison. The general sentiment, albeit wrong, the general sentiment from general society at the time is, but you were in prison. What did you do to get into prison then?
Yeah.
Even when they were released from Brothers Home, they would have nowhere to go. They were shipped off to other facilities or just thrown onto the streets. Han writes, the welfare center closed. The young children were put on buses, transferred to other orphanages. The remaining adults were sent home. Welfare center victims came into society without any money. They were scattered like beggars throughout the city. Many victims starved to death throughout the years.
So
I'd assume a lot of people would have just like died after they got uh, removed, right? Because they just have nowhere to go. They have no money, and the stigma, of course. No one's going to hire them, etc., etc.
You're saying Pastor Lim and like Mrs. Park and all of them, they're running a church.
Yes. So while Director Park went to prison for 2.5 years, Brothers Home shut down. When he was released, they opened a few more welfare centers in South Korea, but they decided we don't really like it. And maybe the law is catching up with us. South Korea is becoming a democracy. So they slowly transfer all their assets to Australia, open up a church, buy a golf range, and now most of them are living in Australia. Their kids, Madden Park.
Are they still running that church, you think?
Yeah. Yes. These are recent interviews.
How are they still around? Because, you know, the community is small, right? You think a lot of people don't know the details of what happened?
A lot of people don't know. So my dad is
I assume a lot of people just don't care, if we're going to be honest, right?
an avid news watcher. He's very
Especially if they have a lot of money. It's just, they just don't care. You can't get punished. You just have so much money. He only had 2.5 years, right?
passionate in politics, and with everything going on in South Korea recently, he's very active in putting his voice out there as a citizen and being heard, right? He doesn't know much about Brothers Home. This is the only case in Korea I've ever asked him. I've asked him about murder cases, kidnapping cases. He knows so much. He's like, oh, I know it was a long time ago.
Yeah. So everything was like kind of
It's very vague. It's like,
hidden
I think like lots of bad stuff happened for sure, but I don't really know what bad stuff. He doesn't even know the names of the people that ran it.
wow. So if they are Pastor Lin and them still around, then do we know what they look like? Like
Yes.
all of that? Okay, then they should be like held accountable.
Yeah.
People should at least know these are the people running your church.
Yeah.
Like this is your pastor.
Yeah.
The same person was like punching people.
Like committing borderline war crimes.
Yeah, like so many people died.
I mean, like literally just holding a modern day concentration camp.
Literally, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of kids were just thrown into orphanages run by nuns because Han was sent to this orphanage. The nuns, they were shocked. Kids were licking their dishes with their tongue like dogs because they had been lacking food for so long.
I honestly just assumed like it was just you're just going from a bad place to another bad place, right? There's a lot of like stories of orphanages. Is that how you would say that? A lot of orphanages. That sounds wrong. Why does that sound wrong? I don't know. A lot of orphanage. Oh, Jesus Christ! Why can't I say that? A lot of orphan homes, where, especially with nuns, like just beating and treating the kids like trash. Though that's whatever they would be doing is probably better than what was happening at the bullet home. But still, like I feel like a lot of them probably still got the crud end of the stick, right? And still wound up in abusive locations, if not just like obviously dying on the streets, right? But I feel like a lot of them just wound up in another bad place. Maybe some of these orphanages were actually good places. Also, I don't know how I just said it there perfectly, but I'm assuming it's just a lot of just like horror, and more horror, right?
And the nuns didn't know what to do. Han says it was rough because, we were children who had been beaten, tortured almost daily at the welfare center. When we came to live at the orphanage, there was no one beating us or giving harsh discipline. So we just started fighting each other. It's just, I think it's maybe the lack of resources that they had, all the torture. They're on edge. They have all this PTSD trauma. They don't know what to do. And so the nuns have a lot of trouble with them. Han says at the time, he was so stuck in the resolving all the conflict inside of him. But now in hindsight, he feels really bad for the nuns because they were just trying, but it must have been scary for them too. It was just an influx of kids coming in. It was a lot. The worst part is, right when Brothers Home closed down and everybody was released, society did not welcome them. Society was warned.
I mean, of course, like they're all just seen as trash, right? And that's just the stigma that it's not going to escape them.
Pickpocketers are coming. The people that we didn't want to see, the scum of humans, they were locked up and now they're being released. And if you were trying to get a job and you said you were from Brothers Home, they would not hire you. Han says no one in the world took interest in this issue. At the time, there was no voluntary civil society organizations for human rights, and because the words of the victims weren't covered in any media or news outlets, we couldn't receive any victim compensation. But also, we couldn't even just have people acknowledge what happened to us. Why must we live burying the truth like this? In Squid Game Season 2, Kyun, the main character, tells one of the game facilitators, someone like you don't get it. You couldn't know or understand how it felt, what it felt like to be in there, what we did to make it out of the games. You have no idea what it was like. Han writes, in the end, the director was sentenced to just over 2 years in prison for embezzling public funds and violating foreign exchange laws, which has nothing to do with human rights violations. And the
Go back on that.
Han writes, in the end, the director was sentenced to just over 2 years in prison for embezzling public funds and violating foreign exchange laws.
Yeah, like all the bad stuff he did not get in trouble for. I mean, of course, dictator, government was in on it, etc. So he's not going to get in trouble. But yeah, he just got away with a slap on the wrist for things that didn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. He should have obviously gotten in trouble for just, I don't know, human. All the bad things they did to the human beings. What do you call that? She says it right.
Which has nothing to do with human rights violations.
Yeah, human rights violations and whatnot. Again, like, should have gone to jail for having a concentration camp, not for, oh, you embezzled some money.
And the case was concluded inconclusively. There is meaning in human death, is there not? For us Brothers Home victims, there was no reason for our deaths, our disabilities. Only we were just left with stigma. We were all in there, dying like dogs. One victim, who was released and went on to have her own children, states, I can't even sleep without the TV on because the silence is too much. Even if I do fall asleep, I start panicking because the TV is on. And I'm asleep. What if someone takes my daughters? Who's going to make sure that they're not taken to a place like Brothers Home? I have all these thoughts every time I fall asleep. Another victim states, I didn't even get to graduate from elementary school. So when my son asks me about homework, I can't even help him. It's humiliating. I'm always scared someone's going to find out. And even now, I'm always trying to hide this from everyone. And it's just humiliating. Park Soon-hee, she was taken in when she was 10. All she did was wait for her older brother at Busan train station. She was going to go stay with him. But the police came and offered to help her find him. She's thrown into the van. Her ponytail is cut off. She's forced to change into a blue tracksuit. She says the trauma and stigma of those 6 years will stay with me until the day that I die. She says the biggest memory that she has until this day is one winter, a lady with disabilities wet her pants. The guards grabbed her by the hair and dragged her to the toilet. They grabbed one of those floor mops to clean her body and poured cold water all over her. And when I think about that now, I think, had I been a bit more mature, I may have been able to protect her. I know logically speaking, I probably couldn't have really been able to protect her, but all I did was watch. And that still hurts me so much. We were children with a bright future, but they threw that away. They trampled on our futures.
I may have been able to protect her, but I couldn't. This still hurts me so much.
After escaping, she gave birth to a baby girl. She was not released. She escaped. She had been brutally essayed by a guard, and she gave birth at 17 to the guard's baby. Her mother forced her to give the baby away for adoption. Soon after that, her father passed away. She has children with her new husband, and they've been married for 21 years. He knows all about her past. He's the only one that knows, and it's still not easy. She says, I've never left my children alone with anyone, not even once. I didn't even let my own husband hold them until they were over a year old because, they're his own children, but they're girls, and my trauma was so severe from Brothers Home. Even now, I can't sleep with the door closed because I actually had him take off the door to our bedroom. If the door is closed, it feels like someone is guarding it. Even though it's bright outside, I have to keep the curtains completely open when we sleep. I can't have them closed. If I'm out in society and something reminds me of Brothers Home, I come home as quickly as I can, and I have to take a shot of alcohol from the fridge, and then I can't do anything the rest of the day. She joined a victims group to talk about what she had been through, and there was this one guard. She tried to convince them to come. That guard was a victim, then was promoted to a guard and started inflicting torture and damage to the other victims.
I didn't know if that was going to be something that happened, but I don't know if that crossed my mind. If anyone there who was, I know, who had gotten kidnapped was able to join their ranks. That it seems like something that could happen, and I guess now we are seeing that it did happen. But how is this going to turn out? Well, she's trying to get him to join this group. I'm guessing she wants him to talk about the fact that he did do all this stuff. Though I would assume if the stigma is so bad there, that these people at this victim group wouldn't even believe her there either. If she's talking about these things, like no one's gonna believe that, right? Everyone just wants to brush it under the rug and act like it didn't happen. It feels like that's a lot. That happens a lot here. I assume it happens a lot over, like in the world in general. But I think wanting to save face and brush it under the rug is kind of just part of, not necessarily part of the society or culture. It's just something that happens.
Wow.
And she tried to convince him to atone for his sins because that's how he can also get over it. And I think a lot of the victims, yeah, they hated the guards, but to a degree, they understood what position they were in. I'm sure some guards were just evil for the pure sake of being evil, but some guards were sympathetic to the others. She said,
Yeah, in the last episode, Han said there was a guard that he liked that let him get on his shoulders so he can see into the asylum and see his sister. And I was like astonished, like what? Why? What is this act of kindness happening? So I guess like some of them, it was just a job they were possibly forced into, maybe like that guy. So I guess maybe there were some human beings actually working there and not just monsters. But
says he had cancer. I said evil, but some guards were sympathetic to the others. She says he had cancer. I said it would be nice for you to just come to the victims meeting just once before dying and just apologize. He said he would come, but 2 days later he called and said he couldn't do it. A little while later, I got a random call stating the guard had died and they needed me to ID the body. He had deleted all the phone contacts except for my phone number from his phone. I don't know why he did that. When I went to the mortuary and lifted the white cloth, I should have cried because he's dead, but not even a single tear would come out. I said, "Brother, this is your karma." Even though he was a victim too, he tortured us as well. Then I went to his house to get photos for his funeral, and the moment I opened his door, I was shocked. All of his objects were neatly arranged. It's what I do at home too. I line them up in order at perfect angles. I think it's part of our trauma because we had to go through inspections at Brother's home. Everything had to be neatly arranged, lined up in order at perfect angles. Even his blanket was folded, military style with sharp corners. Seeing that made me shudder. She says for her death, she's been thinking a lot about it too. Her only wish is, even if I die tomorrow, I have today. My wish is that we all find a way to live peacefully, even just for one day. The victims. Choi, he is the one that was accused of stealing bread from the first episode.
Yes, this was the guy at the beginning where some random guy, I'm assuming the cops, ran up to him saying he stole bread because he had bread in his backpack that he said he got from school, and they forced him to lie and say he did steal it by lighting his genitals on fire, essentially. And then that's how they got him and took him to the Brotherhood.
He said once he and his brother got out, he was trapped in there with his brother. His brother came later, separately. He said he had such a hard time adjusting back to society, but his brother had it worse. October 2009, 23 years after they were released, he gets a call and Choi's brother had self-exited. He says, I went to his house at 11 in the morning and I begged and I held him for hours. I told him, I'm sorry, I wasn't able to protect you.
국가뿐만 아니고
The government, as well as those who ran the facility,
거기 운영했던 박인근이라든지
Park, Pastor Lim, they all need to be punished.
이명수 목사라든지 거기에 사회인들이 모두가 다 죄를 받아야 될 겁니다.
The past at Brother's home has totally torn us apart. our whole family and cut off our futures. Why? Why did they have to destroy my family like this? Everything I dreamed of was destroyed. By the time I was 27, 28, my teeth were falling out. By my early 30s, they were all gone. From then on, I lived with dentures. I couldn't even properly function in society. Now, he and most of the victims and survivors cannot live without blood pressure medication, antidepressants, anti-anxiety meds, diabetes medications. They have so many health complications.
It's expensive, and I doubt the government is trying to help them. Maybe the government is giving them things, but I'm assuming they're just somehow having to make it by for all of these medications themselves.
And the worst part is, sometimes the victims would naturally, understandably, feel resentment towards their parents instead of the facility. One victim states, the police put us in there, but at the time, we couldn't even think of holding the state responsible. So we just resented our parents for, why didn't you come looking for us while we were in there? I couldn't even call my father for the longest time. Jung, his dad...
I wanted to know what happened with this guy, because his dad got thrown in there too. So did his dad die in the facility? It seemed like. Since he actually cared about his son, and he went looking for his son, so much so that he got thrown in there himself. And even gave his food to his child once. And I was assuming that the fact that he gave him that food and the son said his dad looked malnourished means that his dad probably starved to death or something.
The toilet paper salesman? Jung actually had a good relationship with his dad when he was taken into Brother's home. His dad looked for him everywhere, and he too was taken into Brother's home. He's the one that would stand in front of the bathroom door hoping for a portal to go back to his dad. When he was released, he was sent to another facility, and of course he just keeps trying to get out so he can find his dad. Ultimately, his father passes away within few months of leaving Brother's home. His father had found work immediately so he could try to find his son. He was a day laborer. He was found collapsed in a cold kitchen by himself. Jung remembers that day when he got that call.
So all the stuff that happened to him at the Brothers, I'm guessing, is just worked his body to the point of it just couldn't function anymore. I'm assuming he had a heart attack or just some sort of, I don't know, cardiac arrest or something. He just couldn't function anymore.
That day was really nice. He said it was so sunny outside, but all Jung could do was sit on the curb and cry for 3 hours. He said tears just kept flowing without any thoughts. I never got to see my father again. The last image of him is him in that blue tracksuit at Brother's home. If my father were here, I would tell him I love him. Han says even though he escaped, they all escaped, he just feels lost in the world. That's the best way to describe what it feels like to be out of Brother's home. He wrote a poem about it, and it reads, "Cars driving on dark night roads. Where are those cars heading in this late night? Shining bright lights and speeding, driving cars. The destinations of those many cars must be the embrace of warm homes I have never experienced." He says, that's how I was abandoned by society and fell into a life of wandering. I wanted to live a normal person life, but society wouldn't accept me. I have no social experience. I was suddenly released into society from the welfare facility. I have nothing. No one ever taught me anything. I had no idea what I was supposed to do. I had only become an adult in appearance. That's it.
I don't think we've mentioned it, but I assume a lot of these people have Stockholm syndrome too, right? Which is like why they are still repeating some of the things they're doing back then, like, you know, making sure everything's neat. Not necessarily Stockholm syndrome, but like just they still are doing things they were doing back then because it's just so ingrained in them they cannot stop for like their entire life, right? Like being neat and perfectionist when it comes to their belongings, their house, etc. But hopefully, again, like none of them actually got like serious Stockholm, but I wouldn't hold it past anybody like that happening to them.
He was sent to prison twice.
What?
I had only become an adult in appearance. That's it.
We're talking about Han.
He was sent to prison twice, in which one of the guards asked him, "You seem like a nice kid, but why is your killing instinct so strong?" Han said, "What? You know, when people talk to each other, you're supposed to look at each other in the eye." "I am, aren't I? I'm looking you in the eye." "Yeah, I guess, but you have eyes like a wild animal. like a beast that's been dragged somewhere foreign or just attacked. You say you're looking someone else in the eyes, but your eyes aren't eyes for conversation. You should try to fix it. And that's when he started trying to fix his life and get it together. He spends $91 a month on snacks to bring to his sister and dad who are living in the mental institution.
Why 91 specifically? Is it just like 100 Korean and that just goes down to $91?
It was a big chunk considering he only has $500 to live off of every single month, but it's all he can do for them. He writes, when I bring snacks, I have to divide the cookies and drinks exactly, equally. If one thing is different, if my dad or my sister gets one more piece, a fight breaks out between the two of them, even though they're old adults.
Yeah, I mean, they're just gone mentally, right? They can't help that.
Father and daughter, they're like young children. And when I see that, my heart feels so pitiful and sad, and I always make sure to divide things accurately in advance. My doctor told me that treating my father and sister's condition now is impossible. He said it's just stalling further deterioration. So with that, he has been protesting, and 33 years later, the government signs a reinvestigation. The Second Truth and Reconciliation Commission is formed.
I pause because why does this man's face look so familiar? It is like weirdly familiar, but I don't think we've seen him in this video. Maybe it is, maybe, but I don't think it was. He seems familiar outside of what's happening in the Brotherhood stuff. I don't know, that's weird.
The first case that they take on is the Busan Brothers Welfare Center Brothers Home incident. They're still investigating, but it's difficult considering Director Park and his entire family immigrated to Australia. They've taken all of their assets, and in 2016, Director Park passed away. Not that they could do anything to him because of the statute of limitations, but netizens are calling for a thorough investigation into who at the police stations, which police stations were taking people. One victim states they should conduct a thorough investigation. If the government needs to apologize for anything, they should. We need to somehow try and resolve this resentment inside of the victims.
I mean, I feel like at this point, all the police are just corrupt. They've been doing bad stuff like this the entire time, and even like back in the 80s and 90s, they were just in the government or doing this stuff for the government and the dictatorship. Because then we fast forward to the future and we have the scumbag cops who were in on the Burning Sun, which again we're going to be watching part 2 tomorrow. And then of course the cops when or the chief, what's the Itaewon thing? The chief when the Itaewon stuff happens. It just seems like they're all corrupt and they've just been in that position since 80s. Because it's not like some of them could still be alive being cops now. Because it's not that long, right? And then their kids could be become cops as well because their parents were cops. So it feels like we still have that rot, we'll say, in the police force. But you can't just, remove all police officers from their stations and then replace them with new. Like, you just can't do that. So we're just stuck with this trickling in of maybe good people into the police force, but there's still so much rot from the old days still hanging around doing bad things and corruption. Like, it just feels like it's more so than any other place.
One survivor says, we were victims of the government's bid to purify the streets ahead of the Olympics. We were swept away like trash. The South Korean government needs to acknowledge what they have done wrong and ask us for forgiveness. But another survivor rightfully states, because of one family's materialistic and selfish ambitions, they kidnapped and abused thousands of innocent people, all because they wanted to maximize their family's wealth. The family has benefited and is living a good life from the sacrifices that we all made. Their assets need to be seized and returned to the country, and I hope these will be used to appropriately help the needs of the survivors. The commission is still investigating to this day. Han now makes miniatures of the compound. So the compound in Busan is gone. It's been replaced by apartment buildings. And maybe this has to do with the fact that for almost 30 years, nobody knew that this was happening. And he makes to scale reconstructed miniatures of the church, of
Right.
each building, of the bunks, of people in the blue tracksuits.
Yeah, I was like wondering who was doing this. I thought it was like the like crime investigator or something, but it's literally just him. And maybe that's why it's such a like so detailed, but it's like a really good memory, which you would hope he wouldn't have. But because now that means he can still remember everything that's happened to him, right? If he can make such what we could argue like one-to-one recreations of what happens, then that means all his memories still haunt him. If he has this level of clarity, right? Also, I was talking about earlier where they just would like to sweep this stuff under the rug. Uh, in this kind of like area, 'cause they just want to sweep this under the rug, right? That they're saying they're going to do something about it now because it's been so long. It's fine to just bring it up again. But again, we've talked about in some prior video, I don't know which one it was, where like Japan, like the stuff Japan did to Korea, and Japan doesn't want to acknowledge that it happens. They're just sweeping it under the rug and pretending like it didn't happen. It just seems to be like a common attitude to take.
Oh,
Out of
those are all
clay.
made by him.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they're remarkable. Each and every person is different. They all look troubled or sad or in despair, yet they all have completely unique and different facial expressions. And he is working on getting to live with his sister again. So he has times where she'll come live with him out of the mental facility, but then because they don't have enough money, sometimes she'll need to go back. With his education background trauma, he can only do manual labor jobs. He does have a lot of health issues, and his last dying wish is really just to live with his family. That's why he's constantly calling the government. Hi, is this the provincial office? By any chance, are there any haunted houses or abandoned houses? My sister and father have been living in a hospital all their lives, but the hospital says they can't be fully cured, so I want to live in the countryside taking care of them in some sort of abandoned house. Is there anyone? They always say no. He says, my father and sister are watching me doing all of this, hoping, believing that someday their youngest will liberate them. It must be like how I waited for my father at the welfare center. But all I can do now is write about the painful past like this. Unfortunately, he will not be able to bring his dad home. Han's dad was confined in a mental hospital for the past 35 years and has passed away at 75, April 18th of 2022.
Yeah, I assume it's only a matter of time until he passes away because he's already really old in these photos. So I guess that has already happened, unfortunately.
Even after everything he's gone through, Han says, I know that bad thoughts bring bad energy. I believe this. Because even during welfare center life, I would invariably get beaten when I had bad thoughts. Maybe that's why I pride myself on trying to be positive and having a positive personality. What we victims probably want most is all the ordinary things that everyone else gets to enjoy. I think our greatest wish is to be ordinary again.
Yeah, this is go to that Facebook for updates on Han and his sister. I can't tell what angle are we at because she is buying. I thought she was like actually working here, but now she's buying at the at a convenience
So
store.
now he is just focusing on bringing his sister home. He says, if that day comes when I can say those words to my sister, although my sister's outward appearance may be that of a 40-something-year-old, the real 12-year-old sister of mine is hidden inside that body. She'll probably hug me, smiling, and say, I only waited a little bit. Don't worry. It was just a little while. So I wait for the day to come when I can carry my sister on my back the way she used to carry me on her back from school to home. One victim states, we were taken there for no reason. Now we're survivors that are living very difficult lives. I wish that there would be some sort of support. Honestly, that's just how I feel. Han says the only reason he didn't kill everyone was because knowing that if I committed a crime in the moment of anger, the welfare center incident would be buried forever. I tried not to become a killer. I tried to make the welfare center incident known through various legal methods. So did it work? The director was released from prison and is now living large as a tremendously wealthy person without financial loss. Meanwhile, the victims are living with various after effects, worrying about their immediate livelihood. Some are still confined in mental hospitals and other facilities, and many have died. He says, I absolutely did not want the life of the welfare center. Our family had to forcibly live a life that we never wanted. Our researchers asked Han, if you could go back to tell your younger self something, what would you say? He says, if I could go back and tell my younger self something was, you did okay. You did well. You endured it. When asked about his biggest regrets, he says, I would not say the things to my sister that the guards made me say. They made people lose hope, even in religion. Usually, when people go to a place of worship, they feel hopeful that their god or deity will help them. At Brother
Well, I mean, I feel like if worshiping there, that's did the opposite. You'd assume that like Christianity is evil at that point. Like, it literally did the opposite.
Brother's home, they would tell us to pray. Pray that your parents come to get you, otherwise you'll never get out. Han said that he did as instructed. He prayed for his dad, and he says, I regret it because I felt the answer to my prayer was my father ending up in the same place as me, but as a prisoner. So I always felt like it was my fault. He says that he has a message for our viewers.
For all the viewers encountering this Brother Welfare Center incident, I hope it doesn't cause you too much pain. To prevent such incidents from happening, not only in Korea, but also around the world, when policies are being created, take an interest and inform yourself accurately. Raise your voice up. I might have went too far there. Take an interest in raise your voice to support what needs to be supported and oppose what needs to be opposed so that we can prevent situations like what happened to my family from occurring again.
Han writes, people will find false comfort looking at incidents, thinking, well, such things won't happen again in the future, right? If the same situation happens again, though, what are you going to say? It could be you then, or it could be your loved ones. Will you then care and reveal the damage when that time comes? Han has a beautiful poem that reads, the life given to me, someone trampled from the beginning. I want to get up, but I can't. Every time I try to stand up with courage, it presses down on me. I try shouting, why are you doing this to me? No one hears, no one tries to listen, no one tries to look at the trampled life. It is beautifully accurate and tragic, and that is the case of Brother's Home. Leave your thoughts in the comments, stay safe, and I will see you in the next one.
I'd like you to, I'm guessing Han and his sister and the other survivors. I'm guessing Brotherhood. The Brotherhood Home. So this is saying, you might not even be able to say it. It's so dark over there. See this, but I think that's what it says. Yeah, that is the finale to the Brother's Home, the real life Squid Game incident. Unfortunate for the one guy whose dad died. Like, he couldn't see his dad again outside of, I mean, unfortunate for everybody, but that one I was like, I knew from the get-go, like, how it was being worded that his dad was going to die before he could actually get to be with him again, but you could hope that it wouldn't go that way, but he did end up dying. Again, I think he just worked himself to death after getting out, because his body just couldn't take doing normal work for, like, that close to the Brotherhood. But yeah, just, like, horrible. No one's ever going to be punished. It's already statutes of limitations, which is so dumb. It doesn't matter anyways. They got rid of it scot-free again. I'm so surprised that no one just didn't go nuts and massacre this family. They didn't hunt the Parks down. You would think out of that many people, they would just hunt them down once it got released, but I guess that just didn't happen. And again, how it got shut down is... Saying it was anticlimactic is not appropriate, but it just felt like it was just that easy. A guy just saw, like, an attorney just showed up and they let him in, and then that was it. They sent him to jail for 2.5 years. They started doing it again, but then, like, this is lame. Let's go make a golf course in Australia. It just seemed like they would have had to, like, fight tooth and nail to get into this place. It just seems so weird that an attorney can just be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna show up and see what's going on. Again, I feel like, why didn't the government not just kill this guy or throw him in there? Like, how many guys did they take it with them? Right, good that it happened. It just seems like odd that it was that easy to get the place shut down after so many years and being controlled by the highest authority, the dictator of the entire country. It just seems weird. But I mean, of course, at least it was over. But you could argue it's never going to be over for the people who are there. So maybe something at least happens now. But apparently they're still investigating it, even though it's like what 30 years later. There still is no help question mark for these people, no acknowledgement. Who knows if there ever will be, unfortunately. But yeah, that is of course the Real Life Squid Game trilogy. Again, like I said, we are probably going to be watching The Burning Sun part 2 tomorrow, and then maybe part 3 the day after that, or maybe we'll do something in between that and then part 3 afterwards, which again, like I was saying with the police, it feels like a lot of that rot from back in the day with the dictatorship and people being under the dictator's thumb and just being evil, corrupt people, evil monsters. They're still in power, and that's why we keep seeing like how we saw all those other previous events happen. And the police were just so bad, especially with the Burning Sun, which we're going to go back to. Like the Burning Sun and all the corrupt cops going to this place as well, and them being in on it. It just seems like it's leftovers from stuff like this, like the dictatorship. I don't know if that's true or not, but you can't like scrub all that away, because where are you going to find, I don't know, what, thousands of cops to replace all the bad ones that are possibly still hanging around, and then possibly their children who are now also cops that have probably inherited that evil question mark. I don't know. But yeah, thanks for watching. Remember to buy my stickers. I think about becoming a member. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. We're working on watch time and subscribers, and we have a throne now as well. And shout out to the members, EmmyStarr and RaleyDrew. Thank you guys, thanks for watching. Tune into the next episode. Like, subscribe, comment. Know the do. See ya.